absolutely, excited being here. ISDM is an idea that I've been tracking, and you've done some fantastic work. I also wanted to congratulate you, particularly for your new center on social justice philanthropy. I'm super excited about it, and I really hope that it shapes the philanthropy discourse in this country. So let me start, first very quickly talking about the Sustainable Development Goals. Because that's the focus of this. And I was very privileged to be in New York when the Sustainable Development Goals were launched. The environment was absolutely electric. We had the Pope giving a speech, then Shakira sang a couple of songs, and we had almost 50 premiers from around the world, including our Prime Minister, in that hall. And I would say that it's probably the most ambitious global compact we have created. And it is the first time where we were able to bring economic, social, environment together. And this is something that we're all working on together. And I hope that we are able to successfully get at least bits and pieces of the SDGs. But I just wanted to, talk of this very ambitious global compact where I was fortunate to experience that electric environment. But I'm absolutely sure that on 15th August 1947, the moment would have been 10 times more electric. The moment of independence was, I would say, really the embodiment of hope and dreams. And let me just say that it was not just an embodiment of hopes and dreams of Indians, but it was really a global moment, which inspired, let me say, two things particularly. One, the idea of decolonization, the idea of independence in the Southern Hemisphere. And the second, I would say, was the idea of how democracy can be operationalized, particularly through citizens' participation, citizens' movement, people's movement. And I think that's where the story starts of the 75 years of India, hits and misses. So Devanshi, I would say 10 minutes is extremely inadequate to talk of something as massive as this. But I just wanted to kind of flag that I think the hits started, the successes started on 15th August 1947 by being able to have a non-violent independence movement, which then galvanized action around the world. Let's just remember the most powerful movements after that we've seen, whether it's the Martin Luther King movement in the US, or whether the movement against apartheid in South Africa, were largely inspired by the Indian independence movement. So, I just wanted to take us back there. Let me, say that Indian post-independence, these 75 years, is really a story of hits and misses. It is a story of big dreams, big achievements, but it is also a story of shattered dreams, of continuing injustices. So it's difficult to give you a neat story of 75 years of independence. And I would actually say that whatever is, as they say, the cliched saying on India, whatever is true for India, the opposite is also true for India. And that's what it is for the hits and misses in this country. So what I tried to do is, given that this is, just really telegraphic top line, I have tried identifying 5 specific pieces around which I think we need to look at hits and misses of the 75 years. The first is, I've kind of talked of it, the idea of democracy and the constitution that we have. I think it was an extremely audacious project to have the kind of democratic framework we have and the constitution we have. It was audacious, but let me just say that over the decades, we have been able to, in many ways, to a functioning democracy. And that's a huge achievement. It's a huge achievement that in 75 years, probably we've not seen any other experience in the post-colonial world which has had a robust democracy as we have had. And let me also say that the Indian Constitution is so important that pretty much everywhere, go to any law school, they do talk of Indian Constitution as one of the most progressive constitutions. And let me say that, the Indian Constitution, while it talks of the fundamental pillars of equality, freedom and fraternity, it also brought in justice. And I think that's huge for any democracy. And we've largely worked with this framework. So I just wanted to talk about how big democracy is, and very often we don't celebrate the democracy that we have and the constitution we have. But let me also say, the misses are that today I feel that democracy is under serious threat. We saw a brief stint in 75, 77, and today we see that those fundamental pillars of democracy are under serious threat. And you're seeing that in terms of declining separation of power. You see it in the form of violation of human rights. There are a whole range of instances that you can look at where you see that democracy is under threat at the moment. So whether you call them a hit or a miss, but it's a battle worth engaging in to ensure democracy. So that's one. The second, I wanted to talk of development. I think, sometimes we feel, and somebody like me who works on issues of development, I'm very impatient. I get angry that we still have 25% of the population living below poverty line. 50%, according to the multi-dimensional poverty index in Bihar, are below poverty line. But let me also give you couple of data points which will absolutely, it's stunning that when India became independent, our literacy was just 18%, just literally 18%. And in 2011, it had reached to 78%. So that's a phenomenal developmental journey that we have covered. Very often we forget that, but I think it's important for us to remember that. Let me just give you life expectancy. Life expectancy in 1960 was 39, and now it's 69. From 39 to 69. So it's a phenomenal journey of development. And you look at any indicator, whether it's maternal mortality, whether it's enrollment, in all we have done exceptionally well. But on the other hand, I do think that in 75 years, it is painful to still see 25% people living below poverty line. And the data points are different. We know that there's so much work to be done. And that's the misses. As in, I do feel one of the problems with SDGs was, and I think that's the problem with Indian policy framing, that we are still looking at the extreme poor. And we are just talking of getting people out of poverty. I think we should have by now shifted our frame to looking at questions of justice, but we have not done that. So there are huge developmental deficits and poverty that we continue working with. Globally, 1/3 of the malnourished children are in India. 1/3 of the global poor live in India. And these are startling statistics. We need to work on that. So that's the second. The third, I think, which is quite remarkable, I don't work on it, but I think it's important, the huge progress we made in terms of science and technology and what it has meant for the Indian economy, what it has meant for the Indian people. So it is quite remarkable from 47 when we started our journey, and to have the kind of institutions we have. We actually now are a nuclear power. We have been able to go to the moon. These are huge achievements, unthinkable. These were audacious dreams of the freedom fighters that we had, the founding mothers and fathers of this republic, that we are able to do that. But on the other hand, I would say that science has not been an equalizer. Just look at what happened in the last 1.5 years. The digital divide is so enormous that now you're talking of millions of school children actually being deprived of education. Just to give you again one data, it is, there are different estimates, but only 15 to 18% in rural areas have access either to a laptop, computer, or a smartphone. They have pretty much lost this 1.5 years of schooling. And that's the level of the digital divide. On the one hand, I talked of the malnourished. People are still dying of very basic diseases. On the other hand, we have super specialty hospitals, and we are doing health tourism. People come from all over the world to get super specialty medical care. So technology is still not democratized. We need to ensure that everybody gets it. How I'm doing on time, Devanshi? But
you've got about a minute.
Okay. So then I'll be very quick. Just two more. These are the three. The fourth, I think, in terms of justice, which is one of the founding pillars of our constitution. I think it's remarkable. I was growing up in the 80s. I could not have thought of a Dalit chief minister in Uttar Pradesh. But by 90s, we had a Dalit chief minister. On top of that, a woman in Uttar Pradesh. So we've seen a huge empowerment of the Dalits in many ways. The affirmative action has worked. But on the other hand, Indian story is also a continued story of injustice of Dalits. You still see lynching happening based on caste grounds, based on religious grounds. So justice is something, and particularly the socially excluded, the socially marginalized, the Adivasis still get displaced from their places of habitat just because there's some industry coming up. So the justice story is also, again, a mixed one. And then I wanted to talk of because it's just a minute, that on equality, a fundamental pillar of Indian democracy, of our republic. But you must have seen the Oxfam recent report. When billionaires have doubled their wealth, 84% of Indian population actually has seen a decline in their income. 2 years ago, literally nine people had more wealth than 50% of Indian population. So that's the story about equality. These were the 5 hits and misses. I'll just say, Devanshi, I'll end with that there's this famous Faiz line that wo subah kabhi to aayegi. We need to remember that. We need to work for that. And we must work for that subah, along with that Gandhi's talisman, that ultimately, when in doubt, particularly for the social sector, let's look at the person who's the person who's suffering the most. Think of that person, think of the action. Will your action help that person? If it does, I think we'll have a more robust story for 75 years of India. Thank you.